Hello, welcome back. This week we have a two-parter, the creation of the Berlin Wall and its fall. So, what was the purpose of the Berlin Wall? Who built it? And what problems did it cause? The Berlin Wall was built in 1961. To get to the bottom of the problem, we actually have to go all the way back to the Second World War. Britain and the USA, capitalist nations, joined forces with the USSR, a communist one. The issues these nations had with each other's philosophies were put aside in order to defeat Nazi Germany. But as the war ended, all sides knew that this alliance was not going to last. Instead, a new battle for supremacy would begin, the Cold War. Capitalism versus communism, and Germany was going to be one of the many battlegrounds, Berlin in particular. As the war drew to a close, plans were laid up for Germany's future. The USSR were invading Germany from the east, and after Germany's defeat, would control that side of Germany. The USA, Britain, and eventually France, after they were freed, were invading from the west, and would eventually control that side. At first, Britain, the USA, and France would control an area of Germany each, but these would be merged into one zone. But one issue remained: Berlin, the capital. Both sides wanted a half of the German capital, even though it was 160 kilometers inside the Soviet zone. This, of course, was going to be a great source of tension, infuriating Stalin, who tried to starve West Berlin until it was under his control. He failed due to the West having supplies flown in, but the fact that the USSR did not control West Berlin remained an issue. Stalin was determined to have total control. As the Cold War raged on, capitalism and communism fought for control across the globe. The area controlled by the USSR became a new country, East Germany. This was controlled by secret police and fear under a communist system. It had low pay and often quite low motivation. It had its own leader, but it was really a satellite state controlled by the USSR. Meanwhile, the other half of Germany had merged to become West Germany, a capitalist economy where citizens could live in luxury and could potentially make a great deal of money. The difference between these nations was most clear in Berlin. One half of the city lived under the communist system, while the other capitalism. The difference in lifestyles made it very tempting for East Germans to try and go to the West, known as defecting. Between 1945 and 1961, 2 million people had defected, and Berlin was the best place to do it. It was essentially like crossing the road. They were particularly worried in East Germany about losing skilled and educated workers in what is known as brain drain. Those same people could really profit from their skills if they moved to West Germany. Take this scientist, for example. In East Germany, he wouldn't get much reward for all his hard efforts. In West Germany, he could really profit. People like him would be very eager to defect. The East lost skilled workers would surely fall behind the capitalist countries in terms of production and scientific development and lose the Cold War. This was a problem for East Germany and the USSR's next leader, Khrushchev, who replaced Stalin after his death. Khrushchev's first attempt to gain control of West Berlin was in 1958 when he demanded control. He backed down. The USA would stop any takeover and he simply was not as powerful. In 1961, he demanded control again. Then US President Kennedy said no, and so Khrushchev decided to act with an extraordinary solution. 13th of August, 1961. Khrushchev closes the border. That night, he orders the city to be split in half with a clear barbed wire line. At crossing points, Soviet tanks were to guard, leading to a standoff with American tanks. If they fired on each other, there would be a nuclear war. No one did fire, but what seemed like a dramatic change with the barbed wire being put up was actually only just the beginning. It was going to escalate even further. A wall that was 45 kilometers long and 3.6 meters wide was built replacing the barbed wire. It was ordered to be built inside East Berlin so that it would not encroach on the West's boundaries. If anyone tried to cross it during its building, they were to be killed, and after its completion, if anyone tried to cross, they would be shot. More than 40 people died trying to escape in the first year alone. The Berlin Wall wasn't built to keep the West out, like East Germany and the Soviets claimed. It was built to keep the people of East Berlin in, and it succeeded. The number of defectors fell, but it came at a cost. The propaganda was easy for the Western nations. The communists had to build a wall to stop their citizens escaping their terrible system. Despite the dangers, there still were some escapes. For example, the iconic photo of a soldier jumping over the barbed wire. Tunnels were dug, some people did climb over, and people even managed to hide in cars driven across the checkpoints from east to west. Some daring escapees even made a homemade hot air balloon to cross over. Life was not normal for the people of East Berlin for another 29 years. So why is the story of the Berlin Wall such a tragedy? Well, aside stopping the free movement of people and their ability to choose which system they lived under, it split families and friends apart. People to live their lives without any contact with those they cared about if they lived on the other side of the wall. Communications like phones or letters were closely controlled by the East German secret police, the Stasi. The Soviets wanted control of people, but this was a drastic and physical reminder of just who was in charge, and for many people, it signified the evils of life under communism. Thanks for watching, and next time we'll find out about the Berlin Wall and how it fell.